Breaking news, guys. A couple of hours ago, Russian forces invaded Ukraine from the northern front. No, it is not 2022. It is May 10th, 2024. But this is the first time we've seen Russian forces attempt to open a new front in the Ukraine conflict. Let's talk about what they are doing and where. So the two regions that Ukraine has identified as having had significant Russian military activity, Russian incursions, are both northeast of Kharkiv. Now, we've heard from other sources that Russia was preparing to try to take Kharkiv as part of their big summer offensive. But what's sort of bizarre is the two regions where fighting seems to be happening. The first is here near Strelicha, near towards Borisivka, and then fighting near Platonivka. And this is sort of a head scratcher for a couple of reasons. And do some terrain analysis with me. So you can see here is the Kharkiv River, and it looks like it forms a very large lake right here, right along the Russian-Ukrainian border. And then it's dammed up, and this is a flatland, a former riverbed with a small river running through it, right? And you notice here that west of the river, the terrain is hilly, it is forested, it is extremely defensible terrain. And so Russia, in choosing where they want to invade, has invaded due east of this very difficult obstacle, right? When we zoom out, you can see they've literally put this river and hillside giant, just a formation of really, really tough hills between them and Kharkiv. And even if they are successful and push all the way to this edge of this river, the southern tip of the lake, they are still going to have to assault up a hill to get to Kharkiv. And it's sort of bizarre too, because this front does not have a lot of roadways. You can see that while there's Hyalboka and some of these other towns, right, there's only really one road that runs out of this region. And it runs, again, south right through this flatland here. So if they did somehow succeed in their incursion, they're going to be in an absolute shooting gallery for Ukrainian artillery and Ukrainian troops. So this is I don't really understand how this is going to help them take Kharkiv. Especially given the fact that we know the Russian military, one of their biggest vulnerabilities is their ability to cross open ground rapidly. That's where they incur the most casualties. So it seems like they would almost want to engage in a piecemeal fight in very difficult forested terrain, working their way south towards Kharkiv. And then when we go further east, it becomes even more bizarre. You can see this Platonivka. They're pushing likely towards this Vovchansk, which is a fairly large town, probably I'd say maybe a bit smaller than Bakhmut, but they are placing between them and their objective of Kharkiv this entire river system. Again, the Donetsk River. And you can see that the further south you go, the more difficult this obstacle becomes, eventually widening to the point where it's virtually a lake. And even if they were to successfully make it to Vovchansk, they're going to have a very limited set of roadways, and ultimately they're going to be constrained by this Donetsk River. And what's even more strange is that if they achieved a big breakthrough, they're not going to encircle Ukrainian troops. Right? Ukrainian troops are going to remain here on the front line, easily resupplied through this Kupiansk. They're miles away from being able to, pressure any of these troops in this line here. Instead, they seem to be boxing themselves in. It's really a struggle for me to understand. Again, unless their goal is not to get to Kharkiv, but to simply take the maximum total area of terrain and not really worry about achieving like tactical or operational objectives, right? Because you know, it probably will be, if they can break south of this Kharkiv line, this is open terrain. There's not a lot here. So on a map, they may appear to liberate a lot of terrain, right? If they can take Lukyansky, there's nothing else here that's worth defending, and the Ukrainians are unlikely to choose to defend it. So it may be a case of Russia simply trying to get the maximum total volume. But again, this is really short-term thinking for a military that's relying on a long-term attritional strategy. When we look over at the combat map, you can see that there's dozens of assaults happening across this line here, but there's only really one that seems to be happening at this M20 highway that's west of the Kharkiv Lake. Everything else is to the east, right? Again, sort of deliberately boxing themselves in and deliberately putting huge, really tough obstacles between them and Kharkiv. And you can see, again, very narrow roadways, very difficult to navigate, would be very easy for Ukraine to cut them off. And you can see also here, this makes more stark that there's two rivers that Russia's again pushing into this area between two major water obstacles. I'm just like, do they not care? It's really hard for me to understand why they think this is going to happen. And you can see here, right, here's Volchansk, Ukrainian forces conducting an evacuation, but they are able to, by some reports, are repelling Russian attacks near Platonivka. But you see here, even if they were, Russian forces are going to have quite a time driving through, trying to take this Vovchansk. It's really difficult to understand what their objectives are. This may not be a large-scale opening of another front. It may be a deception, and they may actually just be trying to disrupt the Freedom of Russia Legion's operations. This may be just to try to stop those incursions that we've been seeing from them into Belgorod. We've seen, of course, several months ago, the Freedom of Russia Legion hitting Shebkino and other regions. So this may be more of a localized offensive, but it still is just very bizarre if indeed their objective is the Kharkiv region. I'm going to keep you guys posted and updated as this situation develops. But of course, if you're interested in supporting the channel, you want to check out Strike Gum, right? It's caffeine gum, 100 milligrams alpha GPC, 90 milligrams caffeine, every single piece made right here in the USA. You can check us out at strikegum.com, or you can go to Amazon and just search for Strike Gum. Thanks to all the members of combatvetnews.com. Could not do this without you guys. Again, we're going to keep you posted as updates happen. I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.